What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality Podcast. I am your host. I am Caitlin Kenneth Smith, and this episode is for anyone who feels stuck, numb, or like they keep making the same mistake over and over again. Today, I sat down with my friend Meg, who just hit 8 years of sobriety after over a decade of struggling with alcohol addiction. We talked about what her life looked like at rock bottom, the moment everything changed, and the truth about recovery that most people don't talk about. Because the reality is, sobriety isn't just about quitting, it's about facing everything you've been running from. We also dive into faith, purpose, and how she's now helping others reconnect with creativity and God. If you've ever felt lost, stuck, or like you're fighting something behind the scenes, this one's gonna hit. So let's get into it. Megan, welcome to the podcast. Now, actually, before we begin, I must ask, should I call you Megan or is it Meg? Because I feel like Megan sounds very proper and formal.
Yeah, you can call me Meg.
Okay, we'll go with that. Meg, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. It's been a hot minute since we've actually spoken face to face. We talk all the time in the DMs, but
Yeah.
it's been a while. But we've known each other for, I don't know, a couple of years, 3-4 years at this point, right?
Yeah, since at least 2021.
Shit, it's already 2026. I don't know how we got here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's funny because we initially met. I don't even know how it kind of happened, but I started helping you with your health and fitness through the first format is kind of how it all began.
Yeah. Yeah, I found you on Instagram.
Yeah, that's where they all find me.
Yep, that's how it started.
And now I'm an energy drink influencer. I have no idea how that happened, but here we are.
I'm here for it. I love the content.
Oh, hell yeah, I love it. And I know that you're an energy drink aficionado as well with your ghosts. I see your ghosts on your story quite often.
Yeah, it might be a problem.
No, it's not a problem. You've seen my energy drink fridge on my story? I have a problem.
That looks amazing.
Everybody says that. And then I'm like, but I move in a month.
Oh.
Pain in the ass. That's going to be a situation. Gonna have to get a big cooler, perhaps. We'll see. Maybe some neighbors will get lucky.
Hey.
Awesome. The reason why I wanted to have you on, one, because I know that you have a big pull and a reach with God and the way you've connected your spirituality through your content, through your creativity, through what you do. But also, you just recently celebrated a pretty big milestone, correct? Can you tell me what that was?
I just celebrated 8 years of sobriety in April.
That's damn awesome. So obviously we're going to get into that. But first, I do want you to kind of give yourself a little bit of an intro. Who are you in this season of your life? What are you up to?
In this season of my life, I wear a lot of hats. I do social media. I am a barista and also working on trying to build a personal brand.
Nice. What is the personal brand surrounding?
A personal brand is surrounding creativity with Jesus.
I love that because without Jesus, we don't have creativity. We have nothing. In fact, that's awesome. What are you doing for the coffee shop? You're just a barista or you're working on their social media as well?
Oh, no, just a barista. Something to engage with people rather than being on my computer every day because I do just me and my dog here at home. So just a way to get out and interact with people. And I love coffee.
I love that, first of all, I love coffee as well. I love just caffeine. Caffeine is a love.
Yeah.
But I've always actually explored the idea of maybe I'll be a barista just for that actual thing. Even, hey, maybe I'll go to GNC or Vitamin Shop and just work there for a couple days a week just to get out of the house. Because I know you understand this when you're doing social media, when you're doing editing and creative work, it's very just you and the computer, and it can get very easy to just stay in that spot. And then you go out and you're like, ooh, I actually don't know how to interact with people anymore.
Yeah. Oh, what's it like to have a conversation?
And I think a coffee shop is a perfect place because most people come in and are okay with having a little bit of a conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. As far as social media goes, what kind of work are you doing social media wise?
I do social media content for a Christian brand, and then I do some one-off stuff with clients as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's like your own little social media business and on top of the personal brand that you're growing, or is it intertwined?
It's not. So the social media that I'm currently doing, I'm an employee, so it's not freelance. Freelance is a hustle.
It is,
in
man. It
itself.
fucking is.
Yeah, I have some clients that aren't social media, that's more like some podcast editing and stuff. But yeah, I think everything that I do just intertwines together.
Awesome. Clearly, sobriety and celebrating 8 years of sobriety goes hand in hand with building your own life and cracking into success in all different ways, emotionally, spiritually, physically, all those things.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of go back to before sobriety. What did your life look like before that?
Life before sobriety was dark. I There were like multiple things that took place in my life that led me to an alcohol addiction. And once I was in that addiction and I was numb, I was fearful of not being numb.
So it was less about running away from something and more about trying to feel numb, or was it a combo of the two?
A combo of the two,
Mm-hmm.
running from things and then realizing that alcohol numbed the thing I was running from. So it was
Mm-hmm.
like the escape. And I just stayed there because it was comfortable is not really the right word, but
It kind of is because what I like to say when relating to health and fitness is that when somebody's unhealthy or they're stuck in their old habits, you're almost comfortable in the pain. You know it's painful. You know you could do better.
yeah,
You know you want to be better, but it's uncomfortable to change. And until we
yeah,
have something almost happen to us where we literally hit rock bottom and we realize that change is actually sounds a little bit better than staying here, we're probably just going to stay in our old ways.
yeah, yeah, that's fair to say.
When it comes to the alcohol addiction, how long were you in there and how bad did it get?
I started drinking in high school. So I was like 16 when I started, and then when I hit 21, it was the easiest drug to get my hands on without having to go through someone. So it just became the thing, and then it got really bad when I was like 24. And then I didn't get sober until I was 28.
So it was like a decade plus of you struggling with this addiction.
Yeah.
Was it just alcohol or did it expand into other things too?
Alcohol was the main thing. I tried some other things, but alcohol was like the number one.
Yeah, I feel
And
like
it's
when
socially acceptable.
that's it. That's the thing. It's like you go out and people almost expect you to have a drink, right? It's
Hmm.
almost weird and frowned upon when you don't have a drink. I don't drink. I did in the past for a little bit just socially, but I didn't like how I felt. I didn't like not being in control of my body because, as you
Mm.
probably imagine, I'm the lightest of all weights when it comes to alcohol. So when I would drink, I just didn't like how I felt. And then I got to the point where I just didn't care what people thought. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. If you're going to judge me for not drinking, that's not on me, that's on you. But
Yeah.
it is something that is so socially acceptable compared to other drugs. If
Yeah.
if you go, hey, I have a cocaine addiction, people are like running away from you.
Hmm.
But if you go out and you have a couple drinks and you're drunk, people are probably hanging out with you more.
Yeah. Yeah. There were people who were aware of the amount that I was drinking, but there was never once, hey, are you okay? What's going on? It was just like, that's just a part of who Megan is.
Did you lose a lot of people connections with people that you used to be friends with back when you were into alcohol, when you became sober?
Toward the end of my addiction, I isolated a lot and my circle was already very small. So then once I got sober, yeah, those connections were lost, but I was also working a third shift job. So a lot of my relationships were coworkers. And then I left that place of employment eventually. Thankfully, God brought new friendships, healthy friendships. And yeah, but I'm not friends with anyone from those days. Not really. I have
Yeah.
a few people that I grew up with that I still see. My sister and her high school friends, they're still friends. I'll still interact with them. But as far as my circle goes, no.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes anyway. And
Yeah.
generally, you kind of don't want those people in your life because you associate them with the dark time. And if they're not willing to grow with you, then they're not really for you anyway.
Yeah.
So were you strongly connected with your relationship with God before sobriety, or did that kind of come with sobriety?
I had always believed in God. I didn't really know what it meant to follow God. I was always confused, Jesus and God, and I didn't grow up in a family that went to church. My
Mm.
mom would drag us to church for a period of time in our lives, but I never understood what was being talked about.
Same. It was literally like Sunday you would dread going because you knew
Yeah.
you were gonna have to get dressed up and mom and dad were gonna be pissed
Yep.
if you didn't get moving. But then you go and you're
Yep.
just like, I don't even know why I'm here.
Yeah. It was like they assumed that everybody knows the things, and that just wasn't the case. And so then I just felt like an idiot. And that's not a good feeling
No.
to have.
I feel like a lot of, at least back when we were growing up, that's kind of how it was, is like as
Yeah.
a kid, you felt like you were forced into religion instead of making the choice to be in religion and to have a relationship with God. And you didn't really understand it. So it made you feel disconnected and almost felt, I grew up Roman Catholic and it felt
Mm,
like cultish in a sense where it was like, this is how this is and there's no other way. And it's, wait, but isn't God supposed to be all loving? And it's confusing and contradicting in a sense. But,
yeah.
and again, you get baptized really young when you're a baby and you don't get to make that choice. So it's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when I was 20, so I was like in the addiction, but not fully because I wasn't 21 yet, but
I wasn't legally
it
drinking
wasn't
yet.
legal. Yeah. Yeah. So I ended up going to my cousin in Alabama with my family for Easter weekend. And at that time, she was very involved in her church with her family. And she was putting on this youth event. And I went and helped do the thing. And then during the event, they played Passion of the Christ, where Jesus is being tortured and all the things. And it was really in that moment where I'm watching this and it just clicked that Jesus did that for me, like
Yeah.
for my sins. And I gave my life to Christ. But then coming home, none of my friends were in church. So it was just very easy to get back into the old ways, the old habits, and I didn't have a connection to a church or anything to ask questions like, how do you pray and do these things? So then eventually I got to a place where I felt like I was searching for something, but I didn't know what I was searching for. And I'm like, there has to be more to life. And if God and Jesus, if they're not the answer, then I don't know what the point is anymore. And so I started going to church in 2017. And it was a local church that had just started here. And I went in and for the first time, I understood what was being said.
And that's powerful.
Yeah. And so I kept going back, still very much in addiction. But then there was one Sunday where the pastor, he said, it just felt like he was like in my head.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. In my head, like he was speaking directly to me, saying, you have a sin that you're hiding, which I did at the time, like the alcohol. And he's just naming all these things. And then he says, what the enemy meant for evil, God will take and use it for good. And I didn't know at that time, I didn't understand what that meant. But for the first time, I had this sense of hope and the things that I've been through, God's going to take it and something good is going to come from this. And then
Yeah.
I surrendered. And I was still in addiction for a while, but yeah, October of 2017 is like how long I've been following Jesus.
Amazing. And I think the biggest thing that you said there is that you found hope. And it's almost like you found purpose through God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I feel like so many people, they're lost in their life. And a lot of people are lost in their life because they lack purpose. That's something I work on a lot with my clients, my mindset clients, is where can we find purpose in your life? And if they're not faith driven, then it's very difficult. Whereas somebody who has someone bigger than them, God, that they are doing this all for, it's purpose. He'll always be with you. He'll take away the pain and make purpose to it. So even though we go through hardship, it all happens for a reason, for a purpose. It's all
Yeah.
God's story for you, right?
Yeah.
I feel like you can probably relate to this, but I went through an addiction with an eating disorder. and it's not alcohol, but it's a type of addiction. I feel like addiction all stems from the same place.
Yeah.
Is people say, "Oh, well, I'm so sorry you went through that." And first of all, I did that to myself, right? But also, I went through it so that I could do what I do today and I can help people who were in my position because we're most qualified to help the person that we used to be. So
Yeah.
I feel like you could probably relate to that, as in, I went through that for a reason. I wouldn't go back and undo things, maybe do certain things differently, but at the end of the day, it's the journey that makes us.
Yeah. There's some things that I've been through, and people will say that they're sorry. And I know that it comes from a place of it's heartfelt. They mean well.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, it sucked and I wouldn't want to do it again. But man, I wouldn't change it because I wouldn't know Jesus the way that I know him today.
Hmm.
I
It gives you a
wouldn't.
different perspective too in life.
Yeah.
Whenever you go through anything hard, it just opens up your eyes because I know that we all know at least one person that we've met in our life where you just think, wow, what a privilege it must be for you to have not gone through any sort of hardship in your life because they just don't comprehend or understand things
Mhm.
at a certain level. I had this is a terrible story, but I'm going to tell it. I'm not going to use names, but I lost a cousin earlier this year to brain cancer and she was only 36, right? And my aunt obviously has been a complete wreck. And my mom, it's my mom's sister. So my mom went out to eat with a group of people and one woman she was with said, "Oh, how's your sister doing?" She went every day really hard. Really, she's not over it yet? Bruh, she lost her firstborn child to
Wow.
brain cancer.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those situations where, first of all, what the hell do you even say to that? But at the end of the day, it's just, I'm so sorry that you've never seen hardship in your life. So I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. I'm a big believer in that. Even the horrible things, there's something that does come from it, whether it's a year later, 10 years later, 20 years later. But eventually it kind of all comes back and you realize why.
Yeah. God's word is true. And he does take everything and he uses it for his good, for his will,
Mm-hmm.
for his glory. And when you get to see it, it's not right away, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you just said. But when you get to see it and you get glimpses of those moments, I don't know, it's just a good reminder and it just makes it worthwhile.
I look at it as in today, everything that I do on a daily basis, I train a lot and I train really hard to try to become a competitive athlete. And I'm working to build a business and do content. And all these things are really exhausting and tiring and they require a lot of me. And I think if I wasn't to been put through the hard shit that I went through when I was younger, I don't know if I could suffer as much as I am able to suffer today to be able to accomplish those goals, in a sense, is how I look at it.
Yeah.
But so 2017 is when you gave your life to Jesus officially, but you didn't get sober for another, what, 2 years?
I got
Three,
sober
3 years.
2018, April
Okay.
of 2018.
So what actually got you sober? What changed?
I, once I accepted Jesus, it was like, okay, now I have to get sober. And I tried to do it out of my own strength and will, which had not worked up to this point. So I don't know why I thought it would
The
now.
power of God now.
Yeah. So now I kept failing and I kept failing and failing. And there was one night I was like in my room, drunk, laying in bed. And I was just beating myself up because I'm like, I just keep making the same mistake over and over. I keep saying I'm going to change, I'm not going to do this, and I keep doing it. I don't even love myself. Like, how could God possibly love me? And I tell you, I had an encounter with the Holy Spirit, felt the presence of the Holy Spirit in my bedroom. I heard the voice of God, and He said, I'm still here. I haven't left you, but this isn't what I have planned for you. And the next morning, I was like, okay, this isn't God's plan for my life, then I'm done. And I got on my knees and completely surrendered the alcohol over to God. And I had not done that prior.
You were just like
And
quitting is the way you were doing it.
yeah. And so, also to this point, I had so much shame and guilt from decisions and things I was doing that I couldn't tell you the last time I had looked at myself in the mirror. So after I pray and I surrender it, I got up And for the first time, I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, okay, today is day one. And I have been sober ever since. And it has been hard and all the things, but surrendering it to God is really, and that encounter that led to that.
That's such a cool story. I've heard some people in my life have similar encounters, not the same, but with the Holy Spirit, with an angel, with something. And every single time I just, I, it makes me realize that it's crazy that people don't believe in God. It really is to me. It blows my
Yeah.
mind because,
I've seen too much to not
yeah,
believe.
I understand 100%. Now, you said it was really hard, obviously, to do this.
Yeah.
Obviously, being sober isn't easy, especially when you struggled with addiction for so long. What were the hardest things you had to go through in the beginning?
I had to come to grasp that I was no longer going to be numb, and that meant now feelings are starting to come up and arise. And it took months for me to start feeling feelings again.
Yeah.
And that process was one of the most difficult.
I think that's one of the biggest reasons why people fail at becoming sober, whether it be from drugs or alcohol, is because they can't face the emotions and the traumas that they've been hiding from for so long. And honestly, why people deal with addiction, whether it be a healthier addiction, like people have addictions to disordered eating or over exercising and things of that nature, because they're numbing
Yeah.
themselves or trying to hide from something generally. And when you have to face that trauma, most people just don't fucking do it because it's so challenging to do. You have to
Yeah.
relive it and actually come to
Yeah.
terms with it instead of just burying it deep down inside. And trauma is one of those things where you can bury it as long as you want, but your body, your mind is still going to react as if it's happening if it's still there because you
Yep.
haven't processed it.
Yep.
Did you do the work to process it, or are we still hiding those traumas down
Oh
there?
no, I've done the work. I've processed all the things, and today I'm in a much healthier state of mind, emotionally much better. Yeah, I had to face the things and definitely was very uncomfortable, but I knew that it was either face it or fall back into addiction. I didn't want to do that. I've seen now like how good life can be without it, and so let's just do the work.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. What were some things that helped you along this journey for 8 years? Obviously, some years are good, some years are bad, some days are
Yeah.
good, some days are bad, but what have been like some foundational things that help you?
A community for
Yeah.
one.
I knew you were going to say that one just because
Yeah.
with addiction, community is a huge one.
Yeah. Definitely having people around me, having even just a small circle of people who I can just say the thing that I need to say, or just to have someone sometimes when a craving comes, just to be able to speak to someone out loud and let them know, hey, I want a drink. I'm not going to, but I want one, and I just need you to know for accountability's sake.
I
Right.
get that
So,
because I do the same thing with I had an eating disorder. I still have restrictive eating thoughts
mhm.
daily at this point. And when I'm more stressed, it comes out. But one thing that I do is I literally speak it out loud to my husband, to my coach, just because when I say it out loud, I realize how strong I feel about not going to that place again. Oh, I want to have a drink, but I don't want to feel the way that I used to feel. And when you speak it out loud, it just makes more sense
Yeah, it's
rather
like
than it's
releasing it.
correct. When it's spewing around your head, you can almost like talk yourself into that's a good
Hmm.
idea. I should do that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, definitely community and then holy yoga. Holy yoga has helped. Community with holy yoga has helped.
What's holy yoga?
It is Christian yoga.
I've never heard of it. I've heard of goat yoga. I've never heard of holy yoga.
No, holy yoga. So, holy yoga, it's really they pray. The Bible says to meditate on the word of God.
Yeah.
They meditate on the word of God. The body is a temple. So, as we do movement, it is a way to worship God. But I will say, in my time with holy yoga, it is time with Jesus. And it was doing holy yoga for like one of the first times. It I realized the power of my breath, the breath that God gave me, and being able to move my body and realize, oh, like I thought I was healed, but my body remembers and my body has not released that yet.
It's crazy too how people, it's like muscle guarding is a real thing. If somebody has trauma, their muscles can be tighter. They almost hyperventilate their way through life. They don't even know what it feels like to take a deep breath because they're almost so tense.
Hmm.
When you don't face that trauma and when you've been through a lot, your body just holds on to it for a really long time. I think it's actually really cool that they incorporate yoga plus meditation in the word of the Lord to help with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And I've been doing that since 2022. But yeah.
Consistent as hell.
Try to be.
Nice. Anything else that helps with staying sober rather than other than community and holy yoga?
Whether it doesn't need to be like holy, it doesn't necessarily need to be holy yoga, but like
Yeah.
movement,
Movement.
daily
Yeah.
movement definitely helps. Some kind of fitness, something definitely helps. And also just time in the word, time with God, time praying, and also being mindful of things that I'm watching and even listening to, because there's some songs that can trigger those times in my life. Just being like mindful and aware of things that are coming in and what I'm putting out.
Yeah. When you are having a bad day, when you're struggling, is there something that you go to help you?
I will turn on some worship music, and I have 1 to 3 people that I will shoot a text to and just ask them to pray for me.
That's awesome. And I think that's such an important aspect is community plus finding purpose with God and then also movement, fitness, taking care of yourself, right?
Hmm.
I think it's just the best way to put it. And that's not just fitness, nutrition, but it's also spiritually, mentally. I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of people leave that out. And what people need to understand is when it comes to health, there are pillars, there's movement and there's nutrition, but there's also spirituality and community or
Hmm.
social. Because
Yeah.
if you don't have people near you who can help you and who you feel confident in talking with, then it's really hard to get through shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And we weren't meant to do life alone.
Correct. Yep. But so many people, especially today's day and age,
Yeah.
try to do everything by themselves and they're afraid to ask for help. They almost have trauma asking for help. What
Yeah.
a generation we live in.
What a
What
generation.
a generation. But now you're trying to make the generation a little bit better in
Yeah.
the sense where your mission is to help women reconnect with Jesus through creativity. Now, how
Yes.
did that become your thing?
This has been stirring in me for the last couple of years, but I like didn't
Mhm.
have words for it.
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah, I didn't have the words for it, and I believe God is the ultimate creator. We are created in his image, so we are all creatives in some aspect. And I don't do this perfectly, but I try to be very intentional when I am creating to incorporate Jesus, and that's inviting him into the creativity. And so I I have conversations with people, and the number of people who say that they aren't creative or they don't feel creative, I'm like, but you are creative. You were made in the image of God. You are creative. And so I just have a heart to be able to help people explore that. What does that look like for you? And like when we were all kids, we were all creative,
Mhm.
playing and drawing, and you played with dolls and you make up all these storylines. And I think somewhere along the way we just lose it. And I think the Bible also talks about having a childlike faith. So as we get older and get into adulthood, like why not dive back into that childlike creativity?
I think that's such a great point is we all are creative. And some
Hmm.
people I've heard it so many times, oh, I can't create because I'm just not a creative person. You are. You're identifying as being one way when you can be whatever you want. So if you want to be creative, you can be creative. You just have to open your mind up to it. And I think that it's just it literally is like a generational thing in this day and age. There's so much stress that people take on in their life. There's so much
Hmm.
that people are being pulled in so many different directions and they put it upon themselves, because we can stress about the things and look at it a certain way, or we can release it a little bit. But obviously that's easier said than done. The reality
Yeah.
is that we're just trying to do so many different things. We're always on the go, and we're always doing everything that we forget the
Hmm.
little things, like
Yeah.
just spending time with God, but also just being creative. We're taking in so much content rather than
Yes.
creating things. The way that I like to, throughout my day, I look at it as I want to be creating more than I am consuming.
Yeah. Agreed.
When you're trying to help somebody reconnect, what does that actually look like for somebody who is lost? If somebody's lost and doesn't know how to be creative.
So I haven't got there yet. I'm actually working on that right now.
Mm-hmm.
But part of that process right now that I'm working on is first and foremost diving into the word. What does the word say about creative and being creative? And then like taking some journal prompts. Let's sit with it. Let's sit with what the word says. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think too, because we're so busy and our mind is always on the next thing and the next thing, we don't take time to just sit and what does it look like to be creative?
What does it look like to even be present? Some people don't even know what
Yeah.
that feels like. So many people are
Yeah.
worried about what happened yesterday and what happens tomorrow, that they're not even living in the moment that they have today. The moment that you're in right now, you'll never have that moment again. And it
Right.
flies by so quickly, and life literally changes so quickly. And when something horrible happens in your life, that's when you actually think about it. But why don't we think about it when something bad doesn't happen? We just take advantage of our life
Yeah.
that we have today. Ooh, another day, another opportunity for me to move forward in life, to do something that I want to do, to be present, to be creative, to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah. Exactly. And so yeah, that's where I'm at with that right now.
It's super cool though. I love that you're doing that, because clearly you're very passionate about it, and you clearly know what you're talking about because you've been through it. You're not just somebody who's,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm just going to start doing this thing. It's like you've put in the work to be here.
Yeah. Because there was a time when I thought my creativity was like done, but then God redeemed it.
What I find too is being a creative is you go through highs and lows, just like with anything in life. If I go to the gym 6 days a week, I'm probably not going to have 6 days of unbelievable workouts. I might have one really terrible
Yeah.
workout. It's just how it is. It's like with anything in life. Nothing, when it comes to results, when it comes to success, it's never just streamlined straight up. There's a roller coaster. As long as we're like moving in the right direction, that's all that matters. I know for me, there are some days where I'm just staring at a blank computer screen and I don't even know where to begin. And then there's
Same.
other days where I'm pumping out. Yesterday I posted 4 reels. Today I posted one. I'm just like, I don't even know where to go from here. I'm just like, I posted. That's it. I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Sometimes your mind just needs that break to be able to come
Sometimes I
back
need a
strong
break.
tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure.
So people think sobriety is once you're sober for X amount of years that life is perfect. What's the reality?
Well, I wish it was that way.
Yeah, so says
Um,
everyone, right? I wish life was perfect,
I,
period.
yeah, the reality is temptation can come at any time. And you don't have to be in addiction to realize that. We all face some sort of temptation. Some temptations just have different consequences. And I hit 8 years in April, but in December, right before Christmas, there was a day where I was like, if I don't get to a meeting or to a church, I might relapse because I'm kind of done.
I think it's so important to have that self awareness when you're in recovery. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
recovery isn't a thing where it's like, I'm recovered. It's something that you probably struggle with for the rest of your life. You just become stronger and you're able to
Hmm.
silence those thoughts a little bit more easily. But when you're in times of extreme stress, they come out really strong and you feel
Yeah.
weak compared to those thoughts, even though you're not. So I think it's so important to have that self awareness to be like, okay, I'm done right now, but I need to do these things so that I don't fall back into those old habits,
Yeah.
rather than just fall back into those old habits and then you're back at square one.
Yeah. I don't want that.
So if somebody is struggling right now, whether it's they're struggling to be sober or they're struggling with really much of anything, right? Because we all feel lost at some point in time.
Yeah.
What do you believe is step one for that person? What advice would you give to that person?
For someone struggling right now, I would first and foremost just say that you are not alone. I know it probably feels like you're alone, but you're not alone. There are people around you who care deeply about you, whether you realize it or not. And you're not the only one who has gone through what you're going through. The enemy likes to tell us that we are the only one, no one understands, and all these lies, but at the end of the day, they're lies. And it does get better. There is hope. And I think the first step is just talking to someone.
I agree. And there's always someone. Everybody has somebody in their life who I can talk. That's why whenever I have a conversation with somebody, I let them know that, hey, I'm always here. And I legitimately mean that. I don't care
Yeah.
who you are. I don't care if we never speak, but one day you need somebody to talk to, just dump it on me. I'm here because I know that I'd want that. I'd want somebody to dump it on if I didn't have anybody here.
Yeah.
And my final question for you is what does 8 years sober actually mean to you? Because that's a big number.
Yeah. 8 years sober. That's a good question.
It's gonna be crazy when you hit a decade.
Oh, I'm gonna throw a party. I can't wait.
Oh hell yeah.
I think 8 years, 8 years feels like freedom. This is probably the most free that I have felt in my sobriety.
That's awesome. Do you know what contributes to that, or is it just the amount of time that you've been in it?
I think the amount of time and the past no longer having a hold on me.
That's the biggest thing I feel like because you
Yeah.
feel like you can face emotions a little bit better.
Yeah. And realizing that God delights in me and he loves me, and it's not based on anything that I do. It's just because I'm his.
It's just because you're you.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think this was an awesome conversation, and I'm really excited for what you have going on in your life and what's coming in the future. Just
Thanks.
plug yourself, let people know where they can find you, your podcast, your social medias.
My social media is on Instagram. It is at Megs Woz, one word, Megswoz. And then my podcast, I only have one episode out right now, but it's coming back. We're gonna revive it.
We're getting accountability here.
Yes, yes, we are. I honestly, I don't remember what the name of it is, but the link is in my Instagram.
That's all that matters. It is
That's all that
there and it
matters.
will be revived because I'm
Yeah,
going to hold you to that because now you put it out there on the world.
I did.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for listening and go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.